Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Checking, Coach Jay, can hear you loud and clear. Welcome back. And bright Monday.
Welcome back and welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this session is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades, and I'm here to share some of my experience, some wisdom, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our chat, our audience. Let us know how you did to start the week. Happy Monday. Up on the week, down on the week. Did you follow your plan? Did the markets get you out of your plan? So, what are you going to do to maybe reconcile that for the rest of the week? Talking to some of my VIPs, going on tilt a little bit to start the week. Maybe not seeing the price action that you want, but we have to understand that anything that happens in the markets to our accounts, we got to take responsibility for it. So Eric says, you guys get a lot of airtime. Do we? It may seem like that. It may seem that way. Eric says, some up, some down. Dan Trader in the chat, what's up? Tom, how you doing? And let's get into the markets. There wasn't much as far as news goes. Today, we did have a New York Fed manufacturing number that came in lower than expectations. Came in at negative 8.7. Forecast was 5. We had trade talks about the U.S. and China, but we all know what the market is looking forward to this week. The Fed rate decision on Wednesday. Make sure you stay tuned to TopstepTV. We will be covering it. Wall-to-wall coverage on Wednesday. We'll be talking about it throughout the week. The Fed expected to make a 25 basis point cut on Wednesday. Maybe some traders looking at 50 basis points, but let's start with 25 for now. Coach Paul, anything you got on the news?
No, a little tariff news, perhaps China, progress on Chinese trade deal, but other than that, nothing big, and in a holding pattern for perceived rate cuts.
We do have markets making all-time highs. I have to say that is not the price action I expected today, and that's why at the end of the day, you can have a hypothesis. You got to trade the market that you are trading for that day. I was expecting more range bound, and maybe we got that in the S&Ps, but we had the NASDAQ making all-time highs. We have the S&P making all-time high, gold making all-time highs. Find something and buy it. Find something and buy it. It was the theme for today. Take a look at the quote board. There are 36 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. Today, to the downside, we had micro Bitcoin down 1.29%, corn futures down 1.45%, and micro Ethereum, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 3.77%. To the upside, we had heating oil up 1.86%, cattle up 2.02%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 3.3%. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil up 1.05%. We talked about the S&P up 0.45%, gold making new all-time highs up 0.93%, and the NASDAQ up 0.74%, also making a new all-time high, 24,315.50 new all-time high in the NASDAQ futures. I have a NASDAQ daily chart up here, Coach Paul. What are we seeing?
Well, just what we see for the last almost 2 weeks, onward, upward and to the right, all-time high. Is this all-time high where we're really close to it?
Oh yeah, we made it today.
We made it today. There's nothing here that shows any change in trend. By the effing dip is still ruling the decision-making process. Anything else you see in that?
Nope, we are making higher lows, higher highs on the daily market that's continuing to grind up. Are there short trades? My P&L today actually came from a short in the NASDAQ, but reasonable expectations with shorts. You have to have to have, because if I didn't get out of that trade, I would be talking about a loser. We'll talk about what that trade was in just a little bit, but any selling looks like an opportunity to buy these markets right now. The Nasdaq took a while, right? We saw it was 30 days that the Nasdaq didn't make an all-time high while the S&P continued to grind up. Now we're seeing the Nasdaq start to lead a little bit to the upside. And if we look at gold, this move may just be getting started, right? Gold sat in that consolidation for 130 days, pretty strong breakout. Nasdaq looks like it may be doing the same thing, but of course, Wednesday has the potential to do something to the markets. Who knows how the market is going to respond? I know for sure that we can expect volatility. Let's take a look at the 30-minute chart. Take a look at that's regular trading hours. Go to extended trading hours. Uh, take a look at last night's open. Pretty consolidated over in the overnight through the Asia session. Really not a whole lot of anything to talk about here, Coach Paul.
Well, we actually had a nice break last night. And we're on, by the way, if you haven't noticed, we're in rollover. So
We
data's a
are.
little screwed. Some platforms are now, this was front month. I don't, Top Step X, I believe, goes tomorrow. Um, but the overall market, the cash market, does not care about rollover, period. It's not a thing. It's the cash market.
Right.
But last night we had a nice J trade in Europe
Yes, we
on the
did.
lows.
I want to talk about this short first. For whatever reason, woke up at 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. Uh, Not sure why. And I went to sleep pretty early, but I woke up. Maybe that was why. But before I got up and went to the gym, I saw that we made an all-time high. And remember, my hypothesis for the day was that we were going to see a range-bound market, right? So took a quick look at the markets. Do I suggest doing that all the time when you wake up? No. I did. My morning prep before I open up the charts. But when I open the charts, seeing us make an all-time high, 24,159, and not really seeing that volume push above, right? We had VWAP flat here. I took the short. We rejected up there. Again, reasonable expectations for the outcome of this short. I was not looking for this market to go back to zero, um, but maybe back into this opening range and an extension from it. And then I have to take the trade off, right? I can't. Uh, this is Mo said it last week, and we've been talking about it. Do we trade setups or situations? The situation in this case is an uptrending market. The setup was a turnaround or a little bit of a pullback in an uptrending market. So I can't hold on to this short for the biggest trade of my life because it was could have been the biggest trade of my life to the downside. Um, if you're over leveraged. So taking what the market was willing to present, and then like Coach Paul just said, we did get that J trade. Let's take a look because it did show up on a shorter time frame. Let's take a look at a 3-minute chart here. And if you are a new viewer, what we're talking about is this high volume at the low of the day. That was actually the 50 moving average on the 30-minute chart, Coach Paul.
Yes, it was.
Why did I just remove my indicators? Need those.
It was
Uh,
also my pivot number for the day.
Coach Paul does it again. We are going to be sharing Coach Paul's pivots soon. We'll see exactly how we get to those. But, we have this high volume here. And again, depending on the candle that you use, it's going to, you could use this range. This was higher volume, but it's this general area here, right? It's a pretty big range. We're talking about 2476 up to 24,141. So it's a pretty big range. But either way, when we close above it, we did not trade into that range really at all, right? That is quintessential J trade. It's what we look for. I did not take this trade. I took the trade off, my short off, and went to go work out, went to the grocery store. Uh, but we closed above the high of that range, Coach Paul, and that was it for the day.
Um, yes, it was, and it was pretty heavy volume for a night session.
Yes, it
So
was.
that gives a little more to that setup. I don't, whatever the news was, the reaction and the selling stopped and actually was purchased down there.
Yep.
Um, but that was a very large range. If we looked at a 5 minute, we might see a pure.
Yeah,
See, it
there
was
you go.
all encapsulated right there.
Yep.
Um, but I was just, but when I saw that this morning, like, what? How much? Because that was a lot of volume.
It was in
It
a
was like,
5 minute candle that was 2,900 contracts when the average was 300. So almost 10
uh,
times the average
yeah.
for that time of
So,
day.
yeah. And that average you got at that time of day, that's significant. That it is way off the chart. So you want to know that. So really, once we settled over that range, it never came back.
No, it did not. And one of the things we talked about last week, Coach Paul, was this happened at 4 a.m. Eastern time, 3 a.m. Central time. We have traders all over the world, but if you're not awake to see this and you maybe sacrifice trade location, how can you use that information to then help maybe dictate your trades going forward? Hogan and I do the opening call every morning, and we talked. We mentioned that candle where I said, we had this 30 minute. Now I'm looking at a 30 minute because Hogan and I do a lot of the analysis on the 30 minute chart. But this 30-minute candle, as long as we stay above VWAP attached to this candle, I want to be long. And if you look at the opening range for the New York session, that's exactly what we did, right? We came down, tagged that VWAP, and or got pretty close to tagging that VWAP. If I look at the open, and that was it, right? So uh, when you do your pre-market analysis and Coach Paul with your pivots, right? If you are looking to trade long above a pivot and it happens to just tag in an overnight session where you're not trading, do you look at that as a satisfied pullback and now I can find a spot to limit risk to get into that trade if I wasn't already in it?
Oh yes, absolutely. Because the pivot was lower than the settlement. So we talk about buy the dip. Well, okay, it's and that's just the price level. And then you can dig into the price action at that level using a VWAP or some kind of structure. And then you get more information. It gives you the ability to identify a level to trade. I don't trade off my levels just blindly. I'm not big on just price levels. What unfolds at that level?
Yep.
When we see that kind of volume and it holds, and it's a buy the dip environment, well, it gives you a structure to take a good probability risk to buy it. What it will stop me from is getting short down there. Now, I've struggled with that. If anybody knows what I mean, it's break. This is the break.
Oh
Look
yeah.
at that. They're selling.
Yep.
Mortimer, sell. And you join in on an emotional impulse. And then it just stops going down.
Man, it's funny that you say that, Coach Paul.
Why is that?
Because if you look at the way this move happened, I got into this short on this candle.
Mhm.
And then almost instantly we were down, you know, 60 points, right? So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, that trader euphoria of is this the big one? Is this the one?
Yeah.
It's almost kind of a natural reaction, right? Where it's just like, hey, I know there are big trades that happen. I just got in. The market went exactly where I wanted it to. But then you have to come back to reality a little bit. And if this was a long and the market was breaking out, maybe a little bit more comfortable. But I have to remember and manage it. As soon as I kind of felt that feeling creep in, Coach Paul, I'm just like, okay, take profits,
Yeah.
right? Just
You've been there before.
take the profits. The market presented. Uh, I was looking for the move back to that 50 moving average, but the way we got there so quickly that one of the questions we asked is how sustainable is that move? Can we continue to drop 60 points in 3 minutes in the middle of the night? Probably not. And if we do, something's wrong, right? So with no real headlines, I think there was an Nvidia headline. It was just, hey, you know what? good trade, get out of it, right? You don't. This isn't the big one, and luckily I got out because it was not the big one. Um,
Well, another way to look at it is time. So we had big price movement in a short amount of time,
yep.
but whoever can hold it the longest, their position is going to win. There's an old term, and we don't talk about it too much, and strong hands.
Yeah.
Well, in the short term, there was some selling, but where are the strong hands? Well, we're right up against all-time highs. Uh,
Strong hands of the buyers,
the strong hands are, but now when we go see that, we have
and they
this
got
instant,
hands.
yeah, it's an impulsive sell on a time frame of 3 to 5 minutes. The 5 minute chart is even more dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, the strong hands are. I mean, I don't want to be obvious, but that's buy the dip mentality. Well, that's the dip. Now it took some time, but what as time went on, that price and that volume held. So against the strong hands. Like you said, I've been caught in those go, well, if it gets back down there, I'll just cover.
And it never gets back down there.
Oh no.
It never
No.
it never gets there. And we kind of know why, right? Like the volume, we met the last seller, they met a buyer, and they bought it from there. One of the questions we get a lot is, how do you get into this grind up market? It's pretty hard to get into. I think what's good to do, and I talked about it during the opening call, we got shallower pullbacks than I was expecting. Measure the average pullbacks in the market that you're trading, right? You could do it based on like a function of the ATR or just kind of looking at the charts, right? And what the market presents for the day. The Nasdaq was giving us about 25 to 30 point pullbacks before continuation. Now that can be still be scary to buy as we're looking at all-time highs, but we can see this is VWAP, this red line, VWAP from the New York session open. We get pullbacks into it. Here's another one here. I was on with Dolby and George. We were talking about, hey, you know what? This New York session VWAP has the potential to act as a support. And it's just a potential, right? It's not a guarantee. We don't know anything's going to happen, but measuring what these average pullbacks are like, I think are important because uh, we haven't said it in a while, Coach Paul, but you don't want to swim in front of the shark. Uh, and if you're buying this high where you're saying, oh man, I missed this one, so I have to buy it here. Uh, I don't know how many traders that we have that are trading with 50-point stop in the Nasdaq, but you may get stopped out before the market actually goes in your direction. So waiting for some of these average pullbacks and then getting in can help limit the risk on some of the downside in these trades.
Good point.
Anything else you got on the equities?
No, I just want to answer a question here, or a comment by Alex. Cash market would care about rollover for the purposes of hedged positions, wouldn't they? But I just want to clarify that statement. In the cash market, think of 408, 401k money or steady investment money that comes in every month. They don't question if there's a turnover. They don't. It's a flood of money, literally a river of money that comes in all the time. Their analysis doesn't. The thought of hedging positions and rollover never. It's not a question. That's what I'm saying. That's coming whether there's rollover or not. And that's the dominant action in equities. Um, because the futures are a derivative. It's derived from the value of the cash market. Now, is it an effect on rollover? Yes, and but it's small time based. In a trend, it's not even a consideration. Like when we look at a monthly chart, and say, well, it rolled over here. That's to clarify. That's what I'm talking about.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Got another question in the chat. Oh nope. We'll get to the gold questions in a little bit. S&P, a little bit of a different story. We did have that move overnight in the S&Ps as well. Similar sell-off. Again, I think that was Nvidia news. We rallied from there, but S&P got caught in a range a lot tighter than the Nasdaq,
Yeah.
making new all-time high, 66.23 half. But it was a little more choppy than the Nasdaq was. Are you going to say something, Coach Wall?
Oh, no, it was that was his commenting. Yes, it was
Yeah.
caught in a range for after the initial breakout after the opening.
Yep, that was a S&P was definitely a tougher trade today, and we saw the Nasdaq be a tough trade for 2 weeks, where the S&P was continuing to grind higher, the Nasdaq getting caught a little bit. But we got a question. Yeah, the London traders with that Nvidia trade, they got a gift there.
They did.
London traders and Jay not being able to sleep. I should I shouldn't say I should have bought it, but damn, that was a good trade. Didn't want to take too many trades in the overnight session. I was like, all right, you made some money. Call it a day. 2564 in the Russell, I think is the all-time high. I'm looking at 2021. That's as far as our Topstep X charts go. But 2564 is what I have here. I'll pull up a trading view chart and see if we've made a high past that point. But anything else on the equities, Coach Ball? We want to get into gold.
Let's get into gold. Think I can find the art while you're doing that. I have the
Gold.
all-time here somewhere. Yeah, the
Ooh,
all-time high in the is 2555 in the Russell futures.
2555. Awesome. Thank you for
Yep.
that, Coach Paul. All right. So, taking a look at gold, another market making all-time highs. We talked about this. This was a market that just needed a little bit of a break. It, it needed a rest. It sprinted for 2 weeks straight in one direction, and just needed a juice break. But new all-time highs again. 37, 24, 90. I really do think, and I think you agree, Coach Paul. This move may just be getting started. What are we seeing here in gold?
Well, but we had the break, the sideways, and we look at the candles as selling. We had a possibility of a top we talked about, but it never closed underneath that hammer candle. And now I believe we settled above it.
We
Looks
did.
like
Yep.
the race is on. That runner got a shot of some Gatorade and maybe a protein bar and picked up some energy and is going to finish this marathon strong. But yeah, that's interesting. We broke early last night, but look where we found support
Right at that low.
right at that low. And that's been the support for 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the last 5 days.
Uh,
So, what's interesting is I don't, the volume was not, you would accept with all time, it is not, it's average
it
volume.
was average. Yep.
Um, that's a very good sign for bulls.
We may be seeing a higher time frame J trade on a daily. Right. We had that sell off volume off the all time highs, and just marking out a couple of these. You can see it. This was the all time high that sent us into a 130-day ice age in gold. When we closed above it, we get a little bit of a rally. We closed above this most recent one, right, where we held that low. If this was a 3-minute chart, we'd be talking about, hey, now's the time, now's a decent spot to maybe buy. A little bit different because it is at the high of the market instead of at the low. But yeah, this looks like it wants to go. And one of the things we talked about, Coach Paul, I want to flip this chart over real quick. Is if we look at a 30-minute, we talked about this on Friday, right? Where we had, and I flipped the chart over, everyone, so prices are going to be upside down. But
Yes, we did this.
we talked about this on Friday that this had the potential to break out to the downside because of how tight we were with these moving averages. I'll flip this back over so we can actually see what's going on. But initially, it was a pretty good sell. Initially, pretty good sell right off the bat. We had some urgency to the downside, but the same way, what is the situation in gold right now? It's a market that just recently made all-time highs, broke out of a long time frame consolidation, and at at best, I think we could have seen gold fall back into that consolidation, right? At worst, for a short, this just continues higher. So if I get into a short in a market that is, uh, you know, the situation in the market is that it's continuing to grind higher, I have to take my profits. Coach Paul, you talk about this one all the time. When's a great time to take profits?
Yeah. When a J trade.
When you see all that volume come in, right? That those sellers, is that sustainable? And it wasn't, right? We see all that volume at the lows of the session, right down at the low of that daily candle, and it's really important to set the expectations for your trades. Uh, you could have had a really nice short in gold here. Genius Genie, I saw it. You said, I think you were short in the NASDAQ. You were counting the profits and then it came in and took out your stop. It's a real thing, right? Where we have to be very conscious of, anyone ever shop at the grocery store and you didn't eat? We got to be, got to be very conscious of just trying to buy everything. It's like, well, you don't need all of that, right? Take what the market's willing to give you for now. And, if you get a little greedy, the market will kind of make you pay for it. We can see how the market respected that volume for the rest of the session. Right, all that volume came in. We came down, tested it a bunch of times, and then I'm going to be honest, Coach Paul, gold surprised me today.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. It accelerated in the U.S. market.
Yep.
We've been seeing that lately. Remember, it used to be Asia. Then it was London and or Europe.
Hmm.
Now we're getting these rallies in the U.S.
Yep.
Um, and not the big rallies. So if we just let's frame out the U.S. Open.
7:20 Central Time. We took the 1 minute trade today. It was the only time frame that triggered a short. The 3 and the 5. We poll the chat every morning. Which opening range trade are we taking? Chat usually votes for the 5. Chat today. We wish you voted for the 5 because it was the low of the day. I'll switch over to a 5 minute chart really quick. We had that 5 minute opening range, the low of the day, and silver breaking out also. We got to take a look at that. But I mean, look at this urgency right off the open, and they never looked back.
Now, you didn't know that when you put the trade in, it was what it was going to do.
Man, I wish I could, Coach Paul. I wish there was a way to figure that out. What are they going to do before they let me know? But I mean, on a higher time frame, they're buying it. I just did not expect that today.
Yes, and at a higher time. But yeah. Now, when you took the trade, you had a now.
Yep.
Now
Absolutely.
that wasn't a winning, quote unquote winning trade, but you traded well with that. What do I mean? If you're new to this game, there's nothing wrong with taking a trade that has a good loss, because you don't get full information ever. Like if you ever see someone says, I have it all figured out, fade them, because the big day is coming. We don't, and in this, I don't think we've ever said we have anything figured out here. We're just
No.
reading flows per here. It's reviewing. Now, you sold it and took a small loss. And we'll talk about love your losers, best loser wins. This is the key concept. Why? Taking that loss versus having to win. This kind of day is a roadmap for blown accounts if you're trading
100%.
gold. And we see it, whether it's gold or NASDAQ. Get out. Boom. You had a predetermined risk, didn't work out. It didn't destroy the account. It was it gone. Move on.
Yeah, seriously, this is a great loss. I mean, look at the rest of this move. Um, and does someone have an account that can facilitate this entire drawdown? Maybe not one account, but has anyone ever been in a reset cycle, right? Where you're resetting combines or you are just continuing to take the trade. You get stopped out. You're like, all right, I'm going to short it at the next price, and I'm going to short it at the next price. I'm going to short it at the next price. I'm going to short it at 3,700. Uh, or I'm finally, I shorted this entire way up. We get to 3,700. All right, 3,700 is a major number. Fine, we'll break through that. I'll buy it. Damn it, now I've blown another account, right? Anyone ever been there before? Uh, just accepting being wrong. You could be completely wrong about the direction of this market, and it only costs you in the house account. It costs us, I think, $250, right? But a day like this, especially if it's your first trade, right? You know, people come in and this is more about psychology than any kind of strategy. You come in, you have an idea, you want, everybody wants to win trades. I don't want to lose. I have to, and you have to accept it. Um, I want to win trades, but continuing to short this as the market is showing you different information, you know, that's where we get caught in a bias, right? And so be very conscious of that. Maybe not jumping back into trades right away. Uh, Actually, the first trade I took, I did take two trades this morning. I did take a short in gold also. No, sorry, I took a long in gold, and it stopped me out. Stopped me out here. Uh, Took a long in this general area, I think right about here. It stopped me out, and I could have been pissed. And then a couple minutes later, the Nasdaq is presenting a good opportunity for me to take a trade short. Now, if I held on to that gold trade and continued to buy, I would have been right. But would I have taken it with the right position size? Uh, would I maybe have just gone short instead and saying, "Oh, fine, you don't want to go long. I'll just go short and flip my bias." So getting stopped out and like taking a deep breath for a second, I think can be very beneficial to traders. Understand that no losing trade is an indictment on who you are as a person, unless you over leverage, and then you could call yourself a little greedy. But who hasn't done that before? Uh, but it's just a data point. But if you allowed this, Coach Paul, you ever let a day like this become more than a data point?
Oh my God. No, well, those, by the way, those are the lessons you learn.
Yep.
And then sometimes you got to get hit a few times before you're like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
Now, well, if I did, I've talked about it in the late '90s before the big break in Nasdaq. I knew that it was overvalued, and it the price almost doubled.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that crazy. But I kept on selling the highs. They kept on making new highs
Yep.
and taking more money from me. But understand, first of all, day trading. If you keep doing this, you're going to blow the account.
Yep.
So learn, okay, this is not working. Why we set up? Well, I look at the 200 moving average on a half hour. Like today, okay, maybe I got short a couple times, but I have to limit how much I can lose in a day, a budget of losses. But once it's above it, I- I'm not trying to sell it anymore.
Yep. Yeah. Really nice grind up from there. 37.24.90, new all-time high in gold. We will see what the rest of this week brings. 3,800, just over 2% away. That could happen pretty quick if gold wants to move like this. All right, let's go over to, actually, I just want to take a look at a silver chart really quick. The silver is doing very much the same thing. Uh,
If not even more intense.
yeah, wow. Big market there, $25 a tick. You can trade SIL, the micros, probably a little bit more digestible for a Top Step account, but It's a trending market, right? It is a trending market. Speaking of a market that is not trending even in the slightest, crude oil.
Platinum, it's become it's been thrown off the truck. Uh, Nothing to say there.
Balance in crude, the upper extreme of that balance somewhere near $64. The lower extreme somewhere near 62. Today was a more balanced day than we've seen in a little while, right? Where even during the opening call, we were saying, hey, you know what? This is kind of opening in the middle of the range. If I'm calling 64 the high, 62 the low, we were opening right at 63. The tougher trade, right? It kind of felt like a 50-50. It could go either way. But when we pushed up towards the upper extreme of that range, we did get a decent short, but yeah, not a whole lot to talk about in crude. We had an initial sell come in right off the open, and it was pretty much balanced the rest of the day. Crude has been a great trade over the past week or so, maybe 2 weeks, but those great trade locations are coming at the extremes of this range. If you can identify what those are, for me, it's somewhere near 62, somewhere near 64 at the highs. Anything else on crude, Coach Paul?
Yeah, one thing is that 200 moving average on the half hour is starting to flatten out and curl up at the slightest.
Yep.
So, um, but there's just not much there. We can over evaluate this if the
Yeah.
audience chooses.
We can make something
But
up.
um, today we had that the selling off the original open made the lows, but the range was tiny. Inside Fridays and ranged by on both sides. So stay tuned, but don't get into trouble there.
Don't get into trouble. Mo asked the question before: was there a catalyst for gold to break highs, or did it just want to catch traders unaware? Uh, I mean, I think part of the catalyst is what has been the catalyst for gold rallying this entire time, right? We heard pretty much all year, the past 2 years, less investment, and this is me. This is the closest you're going to see Jay act like an economist. But foreign investment maybe not coming into U.S. debt and going and finding other avenues, right, Coach Paul? That could be the
Yep.
case.
Central banks are buying, they're not buying dollars,
Right.
they're
But
buying gold,
yeah,
maybe even
you got to put that
silver
money
now.
somewhere, and gold kind of seems like the safe haven asset, and maybe Bitcoin as well. But yeah, just it literally is a case, even on the fundamental level, of more buyers than sellers, and they have maybe a good reason to be buying it right now. So I don't know that there was a specific catalyst today. It's just a market that's in an uptrend, and it did surprise me. I didn't expect to see a move like this in gold until after FOMC, but that's why we have to trade the markets that are in front of us. Speaking of which, we got a question from Sahaj. Uh, Unless you have another market to go over, let's answer this question, Coach Paul. My
Let's say,
challenge. This is on the equities, and I think Sahaj is probably talking about the Nasdaq. Uh, My challenge: most of the days are buy the dip, but when the real sell comes, then it becomes difficult to figure out if there is a support to buy. How do you handle such days? So in the Nasdaq, we're saying that most days are buy the dip, right? Um, but in a sell-off type of day, where I'm trying to think of the most recent sell-off day we had in the Nasdaq, that was the 10th, right? We had a pretty big sell-off after we made an all-time high. So what Sahaj is saying is, when a sell-off like this happens, it becomes difficult to find a support to buy. So how do you, if everyone's saying, hey, it's buy the dip, it's buy the dip, when we get this was a 1% sell off from the high before we could buy the dip. How do you manage that? Tough question.
well, that's now. If I'm getting this right, most of the days are buy the dip, but when the real sell comes, then it becomes difficult to figure out if there's a support to buy. Well, one of the ways, and there's many, is like is it the 200 moving average? Is it going to hold? Another way is daily levels, a pivot. Is it above or below the pivot? Is it on a trend line? Now, I- this is the key point, and that's what comes is we don't know. So if buy the dip is 1%, I'm gonna buy it. It's 1%. This could be another way. If it goes down 1%, I'm just buying it.
Y-
And
Yeah.
yeah, there is there is research saying that's not a bad way to do it. Now, when is it a bad way? Because we don't know. Well, you have to. That's where risk, or I call it account management. How much can I afford to find out? So position sizing. Let's say it goes down 1%. I buy it. Where am I wrong in this? In someone that said in a repeatable process. So if that's kind of level trading. Now that's different between a trader and an investor. In a trader, especially a day trader, you don't have time to find out. You have limited capital, so you have to have a plan. I just named a couple simple ones.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be too complicated, but in all those plans is how much I want to pay to find out, not I'm going to pay to be right. Different, and they're two different things. So yeah, and absolutely, this is a buy the dip. Equities are they're designed to go up. But not every time I buy them doesn't mean it has to go turn around and go. But if I want to do that, I have to have a plan of action to enter, just a simple plan of action. And then a cost. How much am I willing? No, well, I quit saying willing because as traders, we're willing to pay a lot more than we can afford a lot. Um,
How much can I sustain paying and continue
yeah,
to run my business? How much can my
yeah.
business afford to,
How
yeah,
yeah, how
afford
much
is,
can I yeah, how much can I afford? As my aunt who was an accountant used to say, you have champagne taste and a six-pack budget. Yeah, you gotta budget what you can afford, and this is when you hear us talk about it all the time, having a trading plan. So, at some point, if you wanna buy the dip, decide how you want to approach that, but not every dip is going to be bought. We saw that in March and April.
yep. Yeah, that was a
And
crater.
I would say this, if you were trying to buy the dip in March and April and you survived and you're still around, you're a great trader. You're in.
Yeah,
No one's going to knock you out.
right. Yeah. Know how to take a punch. Shout out to Canelo. Good fight. It was a good fight. Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Coach Paul. While we hear buy the dip, and I try to be conscious of it, of even saying it when we're on the opening call. It's like, oh yeah, these are buy the dip markets, um, because buy the dip is not an entry signal, right? Because how do I know, right? So having a repeatable pattern that you, where it might even be a level, Coach Paul, we do this all the time. A level is only a level until the market, when decides that it's not a level anymore, right? So I could draw a line on a chart, but then when the market shows a reversal pattern there, then yeah, that's my trade, right? I think a great buy the dip pattern to look at, not to keep, you know, repeating what we do here every day, but that J trade is a great buy the dip pattern to look for, uh, where we get a ton of high volume, and it even quote unquote worked somewhat on well, this wasn't really one. If we go regular trading hours, it was on the 10th where we had that big sell off, right? You could have bought it above this high, got 50 points before the market turned around, but that the flow of the day was just heavy on a day like this, right? So, uh, you know, you have to have a pattern, right? It can't just be what constitutes the dip being done. Uh, it's not because, oh yeah, I need to get in the market because I need to make money. The market doesn't care, uh, or even know what you want to do at that point. It's going to stop where it wants to stop, and then it's our job to follow the flow from there. So it's a great question. It's a great question, Sahaj. And I think the one thing you'll hear us all say is that these are probably not buy the high markets. That's kind of tough to do. Uh, but manage your risk because you're going to try to buy the dip one day and you're going to be wrong, and that's okay as long as it doesn't cost you a whole lot. All right. Any other markets we want to talk about? Coach Hoop said he's going to be on the opening call with me and JD tomorrow. Hogue is out, so he's going to be talking about cattle. Cattle had a move up today, about 2%. Uh, what a move here! Is this a buy the dip market as well in the cows? We saw a little bit of a sell off from those all time highs, but this kind of looks like a gold chart a little bit, where we held the low of this candle, that high volume. If we start to close above that, we might be seeing all time highs again soon. Coach Hoop, I'm going to leave that one to you. We'll talk about that tomorrow during the opening call. But any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul?
Get a lot of stake right there at that level.
I did buy some today in the grocery store right before this rally. I don't know if I got a discount, but act like I did.
But no, there is a possibility for a buy the dip. It's an uptrend.
Yep.
So, but without a plan, a repeatable plan, it's random.
Yep.
All right. Well, what do we want to look at next?
Any suggestions from the chart? Any markets you want us to look at, Coach Paul? Anything on your scouting report? We went through our big four.
Bitcoin is showing some interest here. Speaking of buying the dip.
Let's take a look at Bitcoin, and then it's Fed week, Coach Paul. So let's take a look at some of the Treasury products before we get out of here.
Yep.
All right. So Bitcoin, we had this trend line from the all-time high. We broke it, and maybe starting to rally a little bit here.
So
what do you see on the
rounding
daily?
saucer bottom turnaround, gaining some momentum. Get over the 50. We got to it 2 days in a row. Kind of fault a little, but it's still higher highs. Excuse me, higher lows. But that I like that saucer formation. So let's look at the half hour. We're holding 200. Continue to see a
This is
little
a
bit of
weird
buying.
day.
Huh?
So this looked like a weird day because Bitcoin ended the day higher. No, it ended the day
The
lower.
cash did it.
I'm sorry. It ended the day. Cash did. Okay. Yeah,
Because
that was
overnight, over the weekend, it was kind of funky. But we're still, this is a longer term uptrend. Obviously, right? It's
right.
Bitcoin. So I just, if it was bought, look at, we have a J trade on the lows today.
It's a good spot to look at for the rest of the week.
Yeah. That was pretty good volume. Then we just meandered and broke out late. So overall, I like that action. We're over the 200. Showing some decent action.
Very similar area to where we saw some similar volume trade a couple days ago on Thursday. We saw that spike, and that was news. Makes sense. Makes sense. Someone said, let's look at Ethereum. Take a quick look at this. Looks very similar in a consolidation. This is the range until it's not. We marked out this range from August 25th, and VWAP is a flat line. We are consolidating in this range right below 5,000s, which makes sense until further notice. We held that low just like we did in gold. is there enough buying in crypto in general to break out of this range, make new all-time highs? Think about what gold just did, right? Below that all-time high, we consolidated a little bit, didn't break down, but it Ethereum was on a generational run also, right? We're seeing 100% in 37, 100% move in 37 trading days. Take it easy, right? We need a break. So that may be what we're seeing here. Who knows how long we sit in this consolidation?
Yeah, and look at that volume now. That volume on that all-time high is the biggest volume we can see.
Yep.
Um, Notice we did not close below that since we made that. We've traded there. We haven't closed there. That's something to watch. Either way, we can close out of this range. It's got a huge probability of moving, continuing in that direction.
Yep. Absolutely. Billy says, still can't understand the value in ETH. Not bitter. Guess it doesn't matter until it does. Uh, I worked at a, had a conversation with some friends. This is one of these companies I used to work at, and they were all forgot exactly what their job was, but they had to like whatever. It doesn't matter. We were talking about how where crypto derives its value from, and it's the same way anything has derived its value, right? Enough people agree that it's worth something, so it is, right? People used to trade like the barter system. You trade a couple rocks for a service or whatever it is. uh, if enough people decide that something's valuable, then it's valuable. uh, and whether or not it has any true utility to it, that's up to the end user of that currency to decide. But it is people decide it's valuable, so it goes up.
Don't say nothing's worth more than someone else is willing to pay for it. That's why we have markets. But from what my understanding is Ethereum or ETH has a much broader use than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is basically a price-based, value-based coin, where ETH is like Solana. There's a lot of dynamic use. Other than that, that's for a crypto broadcast. We're just looking as futures. We just want movement. The beauty is, if you trade ETH here, you don't have to pay the tax.
Right. No gas. No gas transactions. Those got crazy expensive at a certain point. I think they probably still are, but yeah, those got pretty crazy. Let's take a look at some of the Treasury products, Coach Paul.
Sure.
During the opening call this morning, JD was talking about the yield curve steepening, right? Where I guess yields for shorter time frame are coming down, right? So looking at something like the 2-year, the 5-year, and then yields for the longer time frame, the 30-year stuff is going up. Uh, I won't ask you
Let's
to play economist, but what does that mean?
Well, it means if in a rate cut environment that we're in, where there's expectations for a rate cut from who? From the Federal Reserve. That affects short-term rates more than long-term rates. The Fed can make an impact. The most impact is in the shorter term. But as you get to past the 10-year and further into the 30, or really a 20, I don't want to get too technical, but the Fed can't control those rates. So the yield curve is affected on short-term rates a lot more than on long-term. So we've been, until actually in the last 2 days, before this meeting, it's starting to cool off a bit. So if we look at, you have, what is that, the 2
This is a
year?
2. Yeah, I'll pull up a couple of them.
Let's Yeah, and let's show and put actually do that and put them line charts, and it kind of shows more.
We wanna do 2, 2, 5,
Two,
10, 30.
2, 5, 10, 30. Yes.
Alright, cool. So we'll put the 2-year on the top left, the 5-year on the top right. We'll put the 10-year on the bottom left and the 30-year on the bottom right. We're looking at this because it is Fed week. We talk about these every once in a while, but I got to every time we talk about it, I got to give a shout out to Cortland, who only trades on economic events. Does pretty well doing it. So I know he's going to be watching Wednesday. Probably not trading it, but watching it for sure. All right. So what are we seeing here, Coach Paul?
Yeah,
Uh,
and now let's put the 200 moving average, and let's put the moving averages.
this is these are daily charts.
Those are daily charts. Now look, it's hard to see here, but the 2 years stop moving because it's such short term. Now we would have to go down on the Fed funds, or but let's just, this is the bottom line. Inflation's going to affect the long and the bonds more than it's going to affect the short term rates because it has a larger time frame.
Got you.
So you have to entice people. I would, Paul Tudor Jones said it about, oh, this has got to be almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. Who in their right mind wants to buy Treasury bonds in this environment? He goes, I won't be touching them. And he's talking about as an investment
Right.
because if you're going at that time, you were, before rates started rising, you were getting paid, what was like 3%. Inflation was running over that. So you're literally losing money. And that is the basis of the difference between the bond. You want to pay me what over how long? And inflation's running at what?
It's not worth it.
Now, if it's a 2 year, it's 2 years, 24-month coupon, and it's paying around inflation. Okay, it's not an investment vehicle. It's a short-term funding finance vehicle. It's a place to park money for a while for most investors. So the ranges are going, and the volatility is going to be less. So it was flat for so long. Basically, money was free until, what is it, 2022? But that's a story for another time. Um, Now, what happens? What happens if the Fed just says, "I'm going to keep it the same"?
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy, right? I don't know.
But you could see bonds rally hard compared to the 2 year
Mm,
because, and this is all conjecture, but there is, what is the, the market's really, it's almost 100% they're going to cut by a quarter.
yeah. If
Be
anything else
interesting.
happens,
I think if they didn't, bonds would rally because the Fed's being stringent.
yeah.
Now, I will not get into the politics of it all because what good does it do? I'm a trader. Let's look at the bonds alone.
There's a way to do this. but I don't know it.
Oh, yeah, go on to the bottom with those 2. Yeah, that's a great feature.
Yeah, it
See
is.
that? Um, now we've been rallying, I call it short covering. We're still in a longer term downtrend. Um, but it's got levels. This is just the kind of relief rally. We're still not that far away from contract lows. Um, Now we look at it. There's really, it's been a tough trade this year.
Yeah,
There's really not much directional trade. I mean, it's kind of zigzagging, but that's why looking at the two, we're above the 200. The 20's over, the 250's over it. It's holding well. We have a short covering rally. Um, it's got a decent probability that it will continue. But
yeah,
on short term, it's been tough.
absolutely. We will see. We know they're going to move on Wednesday. We know they're going to move on Wednesday. That might be an interesting trade there. JD had a question for you both. I've heard Hogue talk about lack of exactness, meaning larger participants. Can you explain this again? Uh, I try to speak Hoganese, and I think I'm pretty fluent, but I don't know if I can translate lack of exactness. You have an idea what he's talking about when he says that, Coach Paul?
Well, say, give the question one more time.
I've heard Hogue talk about lack of exactness, meaning larger participants.
Well, I think a lack of exactness for larger participants is that, from what I understand, is that larger participants cannot have exactness. They have to move a market to get in.
Mm,
So, well, I mean, um, who's a large? If a large producer of um, a food producer, let's just say, for instance, Kraft Heinz,
okay.
if they were coming in and they have to buy, I'll just say bean oil because they use a lot of it. They don't come in and go, well, we'd like to buy it at this level. Their volume, they're so big, there's no exact level where they can execute at.
Got you. They just got to get in the market.
They got to get in and they got to go in. And that's when you get direction on a daily, especially on a daily basis. So the bigger participant moves the market. They can't be exact. So when they come in, they can't just go, hey, pay 36 even for 20,000 contract.
Right.
It's literally it. So they have to pay and they make the market. We're just like you talk about, they're the shark, we're the guppy. I believe it's another way of saying that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Uh, I That one got me. I feel like I usually know exactly what Hogan's talking about, but that one I have to ask him about. He's going to be off tomorrow. I'm going to ask him on the opening call on Wednesday. JD, just remind me. But I think that's it. We're at time here. We got Coach Hoop coming up with a class in Discord. Coach Paul, anything you want to say to our traders before we head out for the day?
Once again, develop a plan, trade your plan your trade, and you will find the beginnings of consistency. That's it.
Some stuff. Trade well, manage your risk, everyone. And then do something to get off the charts. Know when work is done. That's what I've been telling my VIP team. Sitting at the charts all day, staring at them for 23 hours a day. At some point, there is the law of diminishing returns, right? Where I wrote on my notepad about 2 weeks ago: do less, make more. Um, so try to do something to get off the charts, even if you didn't make exactly what you were looking for the day. Uh, you're able to see some green on your screen after doing a little bit of work. Uh, There's always tomorrow to continue to trade. Thank you everyone for joining. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. Bruno, I like that. Plan your trade, trade your plan, then you can plan vacations. I like that.
There you go.
I
Thanks,
like that.
Bruno.
Trade well, manage your risk. We got Coach Hoop doing a class in Discord in a couple minutes, and we got Coach Rain, Coach Vince, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time. Dakota with slow markets tonight. I will be on with Dakota tonight for slow markets. Then Aaron with the London trade, 1:30. And D has moved the Euro trade up another hour. So I believe she's starting at 3 a.m. Central Time now. So make sure you check her out as well. Thank you. See you all tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.